Well, a warm welcome to today's talk, Friday the 26th of May. Now, there's been some movements in the British Parliament and the European Parliament about this. Let me just show you what this is about. We've looked at it several times. This World Health Organization amendment to the International Health Regulations. And serious concerns have been voiced about this. They've made so many changes. It's got it all here. You can look at it, and what they've often done is deleted bits that just change a word that completely reverse the meaning, and they've added huge amounts of new text to increase their power base. And look through it; it's all there. It's surprisingly enough, it is in the public domain. Now, what I want to do this morning is look at some particular concerns that have been raised by a group of British members of Parliament, and then we'll go on and look at concerns raised by European members of Parliament as well. See how the time goes. So that's the issue here that we are discussing. The International Health Regulations amendments. The original 2005 ones were okay. The 2023 ones are remarkably different. I've done a couple of videos on this in the past. And we might look at Mr. Roos MEP as well, see how we get on. Right, Telegraph. Now, if you were looking in the States, the Telegraph is a reputable national newspaper in the United Kingdom. One of the more reliable newspapers in the United Kingdom. Okay, it's got its own slant, the same as everything, but it's actually fairly reasonable in a lot of ways. WHO could gain power to impose lockdowns in the UK is the title. They say, from the article, it says, members of Parliament fear new treaty designed to increase organisations, that's the World Health Organisation's powers, would enable it to enforce border closures and vaccine passports. And that's just the start of it. We'll be looking at a few more points as we go through today. Now, that's the link to the article there. New pandemic treaty is still under discussion, so there is time to change this. Let's hope that politicians wake up. Lockdown measures could be imposed in the United Kingdom by the World Health Organization, and of course wherever member state signs up to this new treaty. Substitute your country there for United Kingdom there under sweeping new powers. Not my words, these are from the article. Sweeping new powers. Some might say draconian new powers. Member states obliged to follow the agency's instructions would force Britain to spend 5% of its health budget on preparing for another virus outbreak. I've got a good idea for preventing a future pandemic. Stop this unethical viral research that's going on around the world with people fiddling with things from the created order they don't understand. That might help reduce the probability of another pandemic. Stop the global abuse of animals in wet markets and wild animal abuses in Asia, and stop the wretched monocultures in the United States and the United Kingdom to a lesser extent, where we use animals like commodities. Those two things might help, or we could spend 5% of the budget preparing for one that's going to happen anyway. But stop fiddling with these viruses in laboratories. Stop this gain of function research. Why is there no outcry about this? Have we not learnt anything from the previous pandemic? It would appear not that much, probably, is the answer to that, sadly. Member states are obliged to follow the instructions, prepare for another outbreak, spending a lot of 5% of the health budget, plus a proportion of the government gross domestic product as well. So World Health Organization, not asking for much here. Plans to increase the WHO's powers require countries to hand over recipes for vaccines. Okay, well, we could debate vaccines for a long time, but we're not going to. To me, the WHO would have power to counter misinformation. Now, let's be quite clear about this. Information and misinformation would be defined by the World Health Organization. I think that's the most Orwellian, terrifying bit to me of this. If I put forward good science, good scientific argument based on scientific underpinnings, based by research, disinformation. If the World Health Organization says it is. They define information and disinformation. Terrifying idea. Quite an Orwellian idea. Science proceeds on a dialectic. So Joan says this, Bert says this. They have an argument about it and they come to some sort of synthesis. That's the way science progresses. Sweep all that away. We know best. Enforce border closures, quarantine measures, lockdowns, whatever they need, vaccine passports. You can only travel if you're allowed to. How far would this extend? Work, people unable to make and earn a living. The ramifications are incredible. Conservative MPs have written to ministers. The ambition is evident for the World Health Organization to transform from an advisory organisation to a controlling international authority. Not my words, the members of Parliament, controlling international authority. If that's what you want, good for you. Urge the Foreign Office to block powers that appear to intrude materially into the UK's ability to make its own rules and control its own budgets. But as I say, substitute your country for the United Kingdom, because this will apply to anyone who signs up for this new treaty. It'll be universal. Changes to make the WHO advice binding. In other words, as I understand this, this would have the power of the state behind it. So I get lots of people saying, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But if it's got the power of the state behind it, a state can put you in prison if you don't do it. It can fine you. It can take all sorts of measures against you. States have power. And if it's binding, no matter how much you don't want it to be, it can be forced on you. That's the whole point. It has the power of the individual states to enforce its will. Part of post-pandemic plans, WHO international health regulations. Now, this idea was first proposed in 2021 by world leaders, and it was probably genuinely well-meaning at that time. They wanted to improve alert systems, data sharing, production of vaccines. All of course, completely good ideas. Foster an all-of-government approach, an all-of-society approach, international cooperation, of course. We think motherhood is a good idea and apple pie tastes really nice. Nothing to disagree with here at all, but has it evolved within the corridors of the World Health Organization? Well, it's a pretty short debate. Clearly it has. Now over 300 proposed amendments to the international health regulations, binding advice. The World Health Organization wants to recognise the WHO as the guidance and coordinating authority of international public health response and undertake to follow WHO's recommendations in their interpretation of public health response. Basically, the WHO want to be in charge. Now, the British members of Parliament, thank goodness we still have people that can speak independently, particularly worrying, they say. Esther McVeigh, Member of Parliament, is the leader of this group. Thank you for that, Esther. Written to Andrew Mitchell, Foreign Office Minister, to call for the Commons vote on a draft treaty. So it looks like they're calling for a vote. It looks like the government was planning to put this through without a vote. What's the point in me voting for a Member of Parliament is he can't vote for me? Absolutely incredible. So to call for a Commons vote, what could be more reasonable? A Commons vote, yes. Please. Ms McVeigh. There is rightly growing concern about the WHO pandemic treaty and international health regulations. Yes, there are. The plans represent a significant shift for the organisation. Yes, they do. From a member-led advisory body to a health authority with powers of compulsion. And of course, we completely agree with Ms McVeigh on that. This is particularly worrying when you consider the WHO's poor track record. So Ms McVeigh thinks the WHO has a poor track record on providing consistent, clear and scientifically sound advice. There is the question marks over the scientific integrity or ability, rather, of the World Health Organization for managing international disease outbreaks. And these are the members of Parliament concerned who've signed the letter. Mr. Kruger, for example, coordination and cooperation in a public health emergency is sensible, but ceding control over health budgets and critical decision-making in a pandemic to an unelected international organisation seems profoundly at odds with national autonomy and democratic accountability. well, it's political speak, but you can see what he's getting at, and it's true. Campaigners also expressed concerns about the WHO's increasing role in identifying misinformation. This to me actually is the most frightening bit. The WHO will identify information, and this will then be enforced via their, what's the word I'm looking for? Tentacles, networks was a good word. This will then be enforced through their networks. Because they define it, what misinformation is. Molly Kingsley, of Us for Them, again from the Telegraph article, we should all be concerned about the WHO being ordained as an arbiter of a pandemic truth. Ordained as in to the priesthood. Especially given its poor record during the pandemic. Poor record during the pandemic. Such as its claim that COVID was definitively zoonotic in origin, and its April 2020 denial of the role of natural immunity in protecting against infection. Good grief. Anyway, we've covered those in the past, but no need to dwell on those now. So that and many other question marks. I'm going to put some links if you want. If you're in the UK, you want to complain to your MP, you can. But the idea that this would have been nodded through without a Commons vote, or is probably going to be nodded through without democratic votes, is terrifying. I mean, let's hope that senior politicians and very senior politicians in this country are not internationally compromised by international organisations in any way and are free to act in the best interests of their citizens, you and me. Because literally, this is a matter of life and death. This is health and disease. Now, I was going to play Rob Roos, member of the European Parliament, but I think I've gone on long enough on this, so we'll do a separate video with Mr. Roos on it, also expressing his concerns. And we've seen this from many other European MEPs as well. So great that some individuals are speaking out, and yet the whole roller coaster of government seems to be just rolling over and having its tummy tickled on this one, which is unfortunate. Let's hope we see some steel in advocating for the individuals. Let's hope. Thank you for watching.